Yeah, so we've got Midway versus Sakuryu. This is going to be interesting to see how that fares out. We've got a Conqueror here on Delta's side, and a Yamato on MDIV's side. That Yamato is going to have a field over Conqueror. Conqueror has no real armor except main belt and turrets to bound.
Yep. And what also surprised me is that we've got a Grozhevoy.
Yeah,
On
first
Delta.
time we've seen that.
That's the first Russian destroyer we've seen in this tournament.
Yeah, because no one's taking Harbros because not enough range. Whilst it's funny, it's Hindenburg does the same thing, just so much better.
Yes, and 2 Moskvas, which is also unusual, to say the least. However,
they've gone for 4 Hindenburgs. I wonder if Hindenburg's popular.
Yeah, and you do wonder if that's going to cause some balance reassessments by Wargaming. The fact that Hindenburg is proving so dominant in the competitive scene.
Yes.
However,
so, let's get over there.
absolutely.
Show me the Midway. There it is.
And
so, of course, Sakuryu is probably going to get its planes off first because smaller squadron size, so it probably has the initial scouting advantage here.
absolutely.
As well as some plane speed advantage.
And Corrin there making good use of the force to get his planes off the deck. I don't know if that constitutes a legal assistance or not. But other than that, MDiv are going for what at the moment looks like an AC split.
Looks like we have an AC split here as well. Grozvoy is diving straight into B, interestingly. Straight B line, making use of that Russian speed.
Absolutely. Now, of course, MDiv will work it out the moment the cap starts to flip. But interesting that B appears to be turning into no man's land, at least in the early game. Neither team, with the exception of that quick poke by the Grozhevoy, seems really that interested in it.
Yeah, so fighters swarming in on that torpedo bomber, trying to spot the Grozvoy. I assume they have now at this point.
They've caught the Grozhevoy, yes, and
AA's opening
Wallenrichter at this point, they've caught the Grozhevoy, but there's not a great deal they can do about him at the moment because Wallenrichter's taken advantage of the speed, ducks under that first salvo, jinks under the second.
Missed. Oh,
third rearranges the town. I hope they've got insurance for that.
Full pen on the Montana. Montana got 1 full pen out of that.
And now Wallenrichter's just defilated, and there's nothing MDiv can do about him, short of getting some bombers over. But Grozhevoy is notorious for its anti-air. Not as bad as it was in Beta, where it routinely made Tier 10 carriers cry and rage quit, but that is going to get Delta an early cap.
Yeah, Montana taking an initial long-range shot against, assuming this cap's Dewey, already angled in a bit. See how this does. Now way over.
There's the cap. Now, interestingly, MDiv are making a turn into point A en masse. So they've got the Yamato, they've got the Moskva, 2 Hindenburgs and the Gearing running into A. Their other heavy elements are looking at C, but again being surprisingly hesitant. And in fact, one of the
Delta's
Hindenburgs...
being very hesitant to C as well. They're not going for it at all.
Azkoda has actually turned himself away and has angled out almost completely for a long-range gunnery duel and basically given himself an exit route if he needs it, and QL1M4XX is doing exactly the same. So MDiv, either they're planning to do a 180 and let Iserno take the push, or they're not that interested in C either. So
this is kind of odd. Hawaii 27, the Moss first, found himself a nice island to hug up against, but he's still getting hit quite reliably by the Hindenburg of...
Yes, and it's one of Moskva's downsides. That's actually blind fire, and still putting occasional hit. They've got his last position, but they don't have a solid fix at the moment. And yeah, he's getting splashes from the Hindenburg, so as you say, he's backed up a bit and broken contact.
Getting talks going into that smoke in A. I'm going to do no hit.
And
where's the Hindenburg though?
Indeed, Vogel and Rudy both dodging quite nicely. Interestingly, MDiv have managed to grab point A. Again, that push taking its time. Bear in mind, we're already 4 minutes and change in the game. We're almost a quarter of the way through the map. Delta are 50 points up, thanks to that early grab of point B. And wow, okay, another surprise. I was expecting Valen Rister to take a little poke up to the north, see if he could slip through and basically go. What we thought was going to be no man's land is actually now virtually unblocked. But he decided not to risk it because of the aircraft, and as a consequence, we have this massive gap in the middle in both teams' deployments. And I'm really surprised he didn't try to make an end run onto Corin there and just take the Hakuryu out of the equation. Or at least force MDiv to collapse their lines and their deployment back in to deal with him.
Yeah, Podoliv is trying to use the islands as much as he can, but a lot of things still manage to get the shots over it. It's when you look at it, it's not that high of an island, especially on this side of it, so
in fact,
he's now managed to get up against it.
And in some respects, it's actually bad because it's high enough to wreck his gunfire without allowing the relatively slow US and German guns to drop their shells over and into his deck. And that's one of the problems with the Russian high-velocity railguns. You can't use the cover nearly as well as you can with the US boats. However,
Lavadev's getting chunked pretty hard here. He had got the direct extension from Berg. Yamato took a shot. I think he might have another one's coming his way for it. And
now we're seeing why Valen Richter didn't go northeast out of B. He's running himself down into C, seeing if he can get another stealthy cap.
Yeah, he is. No radar here to stop him from doing that.
There's no
the
radar.
planes have to sacrifice themselves to get the spot.
And there are a couple of torpedo bomber squadrons, but anything that does try to push in, well, if he's smoked up, as you say, there's no radar. And if the Hindenburgs do try to push in, which they're not even vaguely interested in doing, then they're going to be running head first into both the Conqueror and the Hindenburg themselves.
Yeah, they're chasing them down at this point, and both of them are on more or less full health. In fact, Conqueror is on full health. Hindenburg's taken what looks like maybe one HE shell.
Yeah, and I do have to wonder if MDiv were planning to fight a retreating engagement along C all the way, and hoping that maybe Delta would do a berserk charge through it, and they could just whittle them down, because Hindenburg excels at that kind of kiting engagement, especially if people just keep throwing armor-piercing at it. But Delta haven't done that, and I'm wondering...
Are they blind-firing Dr. Valenster, or can they see him?
They're blind-firing. He's got his smoke
They're
out.
Very accurate with it right now.
Well, it's MDiv, I mean... And it doesn't help that Valen Richter is firing as well, so they're just...
Ooh, big hit on the Montana. From our Montana, middle of the map, another dev.
They are just firing down the last bearing. Standard stuff. And this is high-level play now. You can expect snapshots to be remarkably accurate compared to random, but
Cerno's popping out of his smoke right as the torpedo bombers come in.
Cerno's taking a look. He had a fix on Hawaii, and there's some armor piercing going down.
He's going to take one.
Yep, there it is. He eats one. More to the point, he's been forced out of his smoke, so he's now visible. Were the Hindenburgs loaded? Well, there's M4X's Sauer coming in. Askoda's looking as well, and they're going to catch Valen Rister broadside. Ooh, he was lucky to get away with that. 3,500.
On that now.
Yeah, second broadside from Askoda, but he's managed to get stern onto M4X, and that salvo there is going to hit water. But he's still not safe.
He's shredding the planes that are keeping him spotted, though. So.
Yeah, he's managed to shred enough to break contact, and the fact that he had fighter support doesn't hurt either. More importantly, however, the Conqueror's in the point as well, and there it goes. Ghost 945 assisting the cap there and securing it.
They haven't even bothered to shoot the Conqueror yet. They've been focused on Dr. Bannister and the Moskva. Those what they've been shooting most. They haven't shot the Conqueror once.
At this point, I think
they shot the Hindenburg once as well. So
I think it's a question at this point of shoot what you can kill, because they can't overmatch the Conqueror's bows. Poder just takes one in the stern from a torpedo salvo, and then Uchil Sankan Yamato is eyeing up battleship Moskva, and unfortunately Podolier is bow on, stationary. Well, he's not stationary anymore, but it's going to take him so long to get steerage way that he is just going to be a sitting duck for those 460mm guns. Here it comes.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah, they're pushing through aggressively now.
Yeah.
Gearing's trying to contest B. Another dev is, interestingly, in the middle of B. I don't really think he wants to be there right now.
No, he doesn't. Rudy, of course, is tucked in safe behind the iron. He's going to, at the very least, be able to hold that block, definitely. Or he might get greedy, because if he just pokes out. There's a broadside Montana just there. Another dev just sitting there, big and fat and within stealth range. So Rudy is not doing it. He is not that stupid.
Grim's in the midway is being very aggressive. He's got his midway pretty much where the Moskva and Grozvoy is. He's going for that island that's to their right. So he's trying to get very aggressive here to get that turnaround time.
Yeah, and he is switching over into a pure strike. Well, he actually got so aggressive he was briefly spotted by MDiv. I mean, Midway's problem is, well, one of several is that it's visible from orbit. So he can play the strike game, but it might actually work because Cerno, Q1M, and Ascode have all taken so much high explosive damage that their flak envelopes are going to be significantly reduced. So if he's of a mind, he could maybe prosecute airstrikes against those three.
Oh, Carrier's trying to see if he can get a strike on another dev of the Montana. Looks like he might actually be able to get them through. Here come the planes to try and deny it.
Yeah.
There's the strafe. Half avoids it.
But the problem is...
Only one of them drops. Here comes the next one. There it is.
Yeah, problem is that's four in the water. That's going to be 1, 2, 3... One of those went forward of the belt, but the armor piercing is what finishes the job. And MDiv are now 2 kills up. There's still 1 control point each and 1 in contest. MDiv, again, very much like Paranoids in the last match we watched, have played a slightly slower game. They've been willing to concede that early advantage. And it's paying off for them. And Yamato's railguns in particular have allowed them to eliminate a couple of ships that would normally have taken quite a bit of effort to dislodge otherwise.
Yeah, so they've pushed through A, and pretty conclusively there's not really much of a kiting force holding them back, just the random spam of gearing torpedoes and the Zao. That's all that's really holding Vogel up more than anything. I'm not sure if he sees these torpedoes coming in towards him or not. He's turning to angle against them, so he might get lucky and not take any.
He's not seen them as yet, but he
might take one here.
This is high-level play. I mean, nobody sails in a straight line.
Looks like he might get lucky. This is going to be close.
No, he might just torpedo beat that.
He's clear, yeah.
Yeah, he's clear. So, Vogel
this force is completely pushed through and it's heading to B. Meanwhile, the Montana, Hindenburg of MDiv on the northern side of the map, they've sacrificed quite a lot of health in doing so, but all 3 of them are still alive. All 3 of them are still concentrating their fire on this Conqueror, who is taking quite a lot here. I assume there's still a super heal left to deploy.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been counting. Again. But as you say, he is burning, and dealing with the Conqueror is very much an all-or-nothing prospect. If you just tap it a few times, it'll pull it straight back. You need to get 2 or 3 heavy boats aiming at it at the same time.
Right now they have potential for all set. They have potential.
Right now they've got these 4. So yeah,
Yamato and Hindenburg are taking shots as well.
The new boat button is out, but it's only barely containing the damage. Never mind
brought to a Yamato as well,
dealing with it. And
here comes the Yamato shells.
46 centimeters of folded steel, and wow.
Not that effective.
6,000. I was expecting that to be very much a kill
look how
shot.
much high explosives are going in. That new boat button cannot contain that.
Yeah, and in fact the new boat button has given up. There's his Damcon, but unfortunately...
so many shells.
Yeah.
I think MDiv have pretty conclusively got this one. They have majority map control. They've got the cap advantage. They've got a pretty sizable 300 or so point lead.
And they're 3 ships up. Yep. Which is really what's told in many respects. And, why not? Let's just farm the Midway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very aggressive early move.
Midway's bouncing the HE because, armoured deck. Not even Hindenburg can get through that.
Yes, now the question is, Hawaii there is staging a long-range duel with Vogel, but I don't know. I don't think even Moskva's armour piercing... In fact, he doesn't think so either. Hawaii has gone over to high explosive for that range. But the Hindenburg, the rate of fire is just going to tell, and the armour might be able to keep him safe long enough.
The gearing's actually cutting down Vogel as well, just because they need as much damage as they can, so even the gearing's just open water firing at him.
Absolutely.
There's also a Zao in smoke here that's helping, so Vogel's going to go down here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a question of pouring it on. but this is more for pride. MDiv are on 945 points. They're 350 up. Although they might be able to swing that back. Vogel goes down, turns into 890 against 630. 2-ship advantage. 5 minutes on the clock, but MDiv...
They've got too much health at this point.
They've got too much of an advantage, yes, at this point. Tommy 26 will be looking at Nico Didi over to the left, and yet just eyeing up with the 46cm guns. There go the rounds. And Hindenburg's armour may be good, but it's not that good.
Yeah, that's pretty conclusively MDiv's match there.
Yes.
Their push went a lot more successful than Delta's push. I think they did some good damage. Like, they took very little damage and they halved the Montana, the Hindenburg, and the Hindenburg, but because it's spread across all of them, they still have just as firepower coming down on them, whereas MDiv were getting a kill. And that's where it really mattered.
And that is game 1 to MDiv. I think the key takeaway there for people watching is going to be a combination of focus fire and coordination. The Grozhevoy was able to get an early advantage, yes, but the heavy ships weren't there to capitalise on it. And in some respects, that's where the slower gearing might almost be said to have an advantage. There may be such a thing as too fast a ship in this game. And yes, I realise that this is heading towards heresy, guys. Please put pitchforks down.